Hey everyone, so in today's video, I wanted to just jump on here and do a more casual video and play around with the new Rowan 1111 palette. Rowan's certainly done a unique formula here, but the color story is also really pretty for spring. I just figured might as well just come on here, play around with some shadow and just chat. Hopefully you enjoy the video and let's just jump right into it. So the new Rowan 1111 eyeshadow palette retails for $42 in line with the other palettes that they have, and you get 4 shades in here as well, and they are all different formulas. Something I really like about the Rowan 52 degree palette that I have, I like that there are some more glittery shades within that palette, but also there are some more creamy shades that have a little bit more of a base pigment. In general, I also think that the formulation of the Rowan shadows are very unique on their own. If you've never tried the shadows, they are definitely different than a lot of the shadows that I've tried before. They are definitely textured, but they're not textured in a typical sort of glitter formulation. It's not like a pressed glitter. They have an emollient base to it, and you'll see in the swatches of the colors what I mean by that. So the first shade is Hashtag, and this is very much in line with the typical Rowan formula. This is the formula that I think of when I think of Rowan. This is a really pretty rose gold glitter. It almost has a flaky sort of quality to it, but one thing I think is important to note about these shadows is that once they're warmed up in the finger and on the lid, kind of melt down in a really pretty way. But we'll see how this shadow pans out. The next color is Situation. Situation has less of a base pigment to it. In general, it's like a really pretty taupe shade with just like a purple blue glitter. The glitter is very fine. The texture of the product is a little bit thinner than the last shade. In general, this was the case with the 52 degree palette, but the shades that are formulated in that way tend to be my favorite and ones that I go back to. So I'm really, really excited to try that shade. So the next shade is Rosy, and this shade I thought was going to be a lot more like Hashtag, but it's not. It has a lot more base pigment to it, and it feels very creamy with that very fine glitter throughout it. Something I think would be really pretty like in the crease. And lastly, we have the shade Chow. It's a really pretty warm orange shade, but it doesn't read too bright. I think the mixture of these shades should be really interesting to apply to the lids. So let's just jump right into it. I'm wearing the Bobbi Brown Crushed Liquid Lip in Juicy Date. This is one of my favorite everyday lip products ever. Just one of those formulas. I haven't been able to find another one like it. So that's what I'm wearing on the lips. And then I'm also wearing the Physicans formula Natural Defense multicolor stick. I just talked about this in my best and worst of drugstore cream blushes. This was definitely a standout, so that's what I have on my cheeks. I actually feel like I need a little bit more. Easy to just blend out from the stick with a finger. So I'm gonna take a little bit of Rosy on a synthetic brush and then just start to build that up into the crease. Really crazy how this formula looks when you use it with a brush and you just kind of shear it into the crease. Isn't a lot of visible shimmer, and it just kind of works as a matte shade would, but it still has that sort of creaminess to it. Not all the glitter is completely gone. Obviously the shade has glitter to it, but you know, it doesn't give you the same sort of glitter payoff using a finger would, which I actually like that is the case because it makes this palette a little bit more versatile. I really like that gave some subtle definition to the lid. Next, I'm really excited to play with this one. This is probably the shade that caught my eye the most, and it's Situation. This shade looks so pretty. I'm gonna take my finger and just dunk it in the palette. I'm gonna focus it out towards the outer corner. This is really exactly what I was hoping for. Just the light that it brings, I love, but this shade isn't too glittery or too textured. I think this formula within their shadows is my favorite, and I love that it just gives that really pretty glossy look right within the crease of the eye is really pretty. I know some of you with oily lids are probably like, ah, I hate that. I don't know what it is about it, but I love that look. It looks kind of like distressed and worn in, and I really have been liking that. Yeah, I just really, really enjoy that color. See how it kind of just gives that like undone textured look, but still has like a pretty glossiness to it. So thus far, I'm really liking this. I next want to take this shade. This is the shade Hashtag, and it's one of the more flaky, super textured shades. And I want to apply that to the inner portion of my lid. That's gonna have hopefully a lot of light. Yes, yes, it definitely does. And you can see how that has a lot more weight to it. This one has a lot more texture than the last shade. But what's crazy about this kind of shadow formula is that you don't need a primer. It just immediately sticks to the lid with a finger. That's what it is. I've been trying to think of what this shadow formula reminds me of. Have you guys ever read that children's book where the fish has all the different colored scales? I'm gonna put up a picture if I can remember what the name is, but that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of like fish scales in like a really pretty way, if that makes sense. Going in on the other side and putting that shade on the inner corner. That immediately just brought like so much light to my lids. I imagine that shade being great too for like an editorial look. For every day, that is one of the formulas that I wouldn't necessarily reach for though, just because it is so glittery. So I would need to be going for like a more dramatic look. Lastly, I want to take the shade Chow, and I think I'm just gonna put that under the lash line just because we can't leave a shade missing. So I think I'm going to take a little bit on my finger, apply it out here, and then use a brush to kind of blend it in. Very lightly coated in that shade, and then blend it out on the outer corner. That shade has a similar formula to the darker shade that we put on the outer corner, so I think those two textures really blend well and mesh well together within this look. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I like how that shade really popped my eye color. Just so it meshes better with everything else though, I am going to take a little bit of Situation. Yeah, that shade, that one is still, I think so far, my favorite. And then I'm going to put a little bit of that one on top of it and then blend. I think that looks really good. I'm just gonna quickly apply some mascara and curl my lashes. I actually added a little bit more brow product as well, just to, I felt like, even it out a little bit. And this is the whole finished look. I really like the way that this turned out. But I do want to regroup and kind of give you guys a conclusion how I'm feeling right now about the 1111 palette. So first of all, as I had already mentioned, I think the color story is so on point, and for me personally, the colors are incredibly smart. It never leans too warm or too cool, but it still reads as a spring palette to me, or one that you should at least release in the spring. These are shades I would use all year round, which was definitely a part of what they wanted to do. They wanted to create an everyday sort of palette, so I mean, they definitely did that, I think. As for the formulas, right away, I mean, I'm telling you, I would buy a single of Situation on its own. It gives you such a creamy look. The color is just so on point, and I'm actually really surprised that I love this really warm shade as well. This is the shade Chow. Really liked that. It really popped my eyes. Actually works surprisingly well with the other colors once I kind of blended them together. And that was the one shade that I wasn't sure would necessarily work, but it absolutely does. Chow, Rosy, and Situation, these these three colors all have that same really creamy formula that has a little bit more of a base pigment to it. It's going to give you that really dewy, creamy eye look that I absolutely love. That formula to me is so unique and very, very well done. As for the shade Situation, honestly, a little bit too chunky for me to wear personally for every day, but the more that I'm wearing it in the inner corner with the other shades kind of working as a framework, it completely makes sense to me, and actually kind of surprised myself at how much I really like it. And how much I actually think I can pull it off. I wasn't sure if I would be able to pull off all of that texture, but I think it really works in this application. Ultimately, I mean, you saw with the way that I applied them, they blend so effortlessly because they are so creamy. They're really easy to work with. These aren't shadows that I would necessarily say like are completely crease resistant by any means. I mean, especially a super textured shade. But I do think there are some of you out there that don't really mind creasing, and it kind of just adds to the look. If you're one of those people, I don't think you're gonna mind. I'm typically one of those people, but I do understand, you know, time and place, sometimes we don't want that. These colors, it was just very, very well thought out. I really like that Rowan decided to go a warm palette, a cool palette, and then a palette like this. Yeah, I can't wait to wear this all the time. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And of course, I hope you'll subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and I will see you in my next one.